started a few years ago, and it's called Money in Me. But before I get started, I'd like for you to think about your laundry. So are you the type of person that uses dry cleaners? Do you have a washer and dryer at home? Or do you go to the laundromat? And all of us have to do laundry, right? We all have to figure out the mechanism we're going to do it, but we all have different methods for accomplishing that. Well, Money in Me was created. It's a financial literacy program. It's actually a system to help low-income people get control of their finances. So, a little bit about me. Oops, let me go back. So I'm born and raised in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I attended the University of New Mexico, got my background in psychology. I actually went to a campus, Webster University, and got a counseling degree there. I have two daughters, and one is now at the University of New Mexico. Last year she was in the Spirit Marching Band and carried the 30-pound bass drum around the field and is freakishly strong. Then my youngest one, she's 15, soon to be 16 in a couple weeks. She has Down syndrome, and that leads to another entire world when you're living with a child with special needs. But it has also brought to me the curriculum that I will be sharing with you today, is how to make things that seem complicated simple. And so a few years ago, I was the director of a faith-based nonprofit, and we received a grant to help low-income people manage their money more effectively. Naively, I thought, okay, how hard could this be? Let's get a curriculum. We have some money now. Let's get it going. And what I found is many of the money management curriculums out there are great, but they're written for people with money. They're written for the people that are using the dry cleaners and they have the washers and dryers at home. I said, where are the curriculums for people living in survival mode? The people that are utilizing the food stamps, they're going to food pantries, they're having to use clothing closets. Where's the curriculum for people in survival mode? And it's a different language, it's a different way of thinking, and as I looked at different money management curriculums, I started taking the money management concepts and adapting it to the thinking and culture of low-income people. And so they don't use words like vacations, because how many low-income people do you know going to Disneyland? But they do take out-of-town trips to visit friends and family. They don't do dry cleaning, but they do laundry. So it started with changing a simple budget worksheet, has now evolved into an entire curriculum complete with tools. They each get a receipt organizer, a calculator, a calendar, a notepad. We teach the cash envelope system so they get envelopes, and all of that comes together. And in addition to the curriculum for the participants, there are PowerPoint presentations for the trainers, and I've expanded to do I do train the trainer in Albuquerque, but I just launched last week my Money in Me online university, so trainers from all over the country could become a certified trainer with Money in Me, order the materials, and teach it in their community. So is it effective? Well, it depends how you measure success. Again, in the middle income and upper income world, we look at how much money has a person saved and how much debt have they paid off. Well, in the low-income world, they don't even use the word debt. I used to say, how many of you have debt? And I would be holding my hand and I would get blank stares. And I thought, okay, this is strange. How many of you owe money to a pawn shop, a payday loan? And just real quick, does anyone know how much payday loans are? Anyone want to share?
I think my sister had a couple of them at 400 and some percent. 400 and
some percent. Others. So it is crazy. Once you get a payday loan, you can almost never get out of it, and it really is a downward cycle. And so I said, well, how many of you owe money to friends, family, payday loans? And suddenly the hand shot up. So in my curriculum, we don't even talk about debt, because debt is associated with credit cards, but we talk about owing money. And even though friends and family may not be charging you interest, we do talk about the importance of paying them back to restore and repair relationships within a family unit. So does it work? We have seen people stop smoking, stop gambling, become better shoppers, because the idea behind this financial literacy program is behavior change. And so once you can get a person to understand their current spending habits, maybe make a couple of changes, then you can see success. We teach price per ounce. I wish I had gathered this statistic early on, because I was shocked. I was year 3 or 4 in development when I was teaching price per ounce, but I didn't understand how much that was affecting and changing people's lives when they were going to a convenience store and buying the cheapest thing, even though it was actually the most expensive because they didn't understand the price per ounce. And so who is it for? This has just started really growing because it's for any organization that wants to help low-income people. When I first started the program, as I said, I was a director of a faith-based nonprofit, and we worked with a lot of churches. So the idea was to write something that churches could use to not just have food handed out like a food pantry and be a handout, but be a handout to actually teach people how to manage their money so they didn't have to visit the food pantry as often. But then it's expanded. I had some large employers come talk to me, and they said, we want this for our employees. So I did it for a healthcare organization as a new employee orientation. Recently, 2 weeks ago, I got to go into the U.S. federal courthouse, and I did it for people that have been in prison and are now coming out on probation. Most interesting class I had, everybody there had an ankle bracelet on. Very creative. It was a lot of fun. Just yesterday, I was speaking at a poverty conference, and so the AHA Poverty Conference was here in St. Louis, and I got connected to one of the head of St. Vincent de Paul, and they can see this rolling out nationwide through St. Vincent de Paul. I'm working with another prison called Core Civic. Their corporate office is in Nashville, Tennessee, and we're looking at piloting this program in Grants, New Mexico. So what started with changing a basic budget worksheet has now evolved into this business. I had to quit my full-time job as executive director a year ago because this is now me and it's getting big. So I have 5 streams of revenue. I'm doing the program for corporations. When I go there, they pay me a consulting fee. I have subscriptions and licenses for trainers, so to become a licensed trainer and have access to all the PowerPoints, you pay an annual fee. I've created my Money and Me online university, so I get revenue from people clicking and watching my online videos. I do my Train the Trainer in Albuquerque every few months, and then my sales of my workbooks and kits. And so, yeah, I'd love to chat with you more. Again, my name is Sarah Money, and I've just been excited to come have this opportunity to speak in St. Louis and hopefully chat with some of you. So thank you very much for your time.
That name, you pretty much were stuck doing something like this, right? Who wants to start? My great question askers.
Do you incorporate anything about like job training or job counseling, like the expected earnings and revenue when you hold down a job for a year versus just jumping from job to job trying to find an ideal one? So yeah, the benefits that adding to your resume that can provide.
The part I talk about, so the question is, what does the curriculum look like related to job training? So what I do is how to keep your job. And so we ask questions like, what would happen if you lost your job? Because I want people to understand the consequences of their behaviors if they were to suddenly just decide not to go into work that day. We ask what, so it's not in terms of looking to grow into a job, it's just in keeping your job. If you have children, who could watch them if they get sick? So creating a backup plan that they don't have to miss work. Transportation is often an issue, and so just what's your regular ride to work? What would you do if you couldn't get your regular ride to work? And then we talk about how important is it communicating with your supervisor. And as I was working with corporations, people just not showing up happens. But also, it turned out that gossip is a huge problem in a workplace. And so I actually started addressing gossip. And I say, first of all, I tell them don't gossip because it leads to a negative work environment. But then I give them strategies of how not to gossip. So gossiping is not talking about another person when they're not present. If you have a problem with someone, you talk to your supervisor and think of positive things that have happened to you that you can share at work to hopefully try and change a culture around the way people are thinking at their job to be a better employee. So the idea is to be a better employee in that regard.
All right, who's next?
This is so wonderful. My sister passed away from addiction back at the end of April after 30 years, but she had such a problem understanding the value of things, and so she'd go out and buy those expensive lattes or such, but she was on disability money from the government, and that was it. And it's time for this stuff to help people to get a handle on things. I know I looked through various organizations and just couldn't find anything this way. So tell me again how you're going to be getting into people that are getting out of prison. She wasn't in prison, she almost was. So.
Sure. The idea, so in my marketing, I'm marketing it to organizations that want to help people. So it could be a prison, it could be a church, it could be a corporation. I just think about what if all the Walmarts implemented this as part of their new employee training, or all of the hotel chains for their housekeeping employees or the janitorial staff. And to make it part of the culture that when a person becomes an employee, we value enough that we don't want to just give you money, we want to teach you how to manage your money and make it part of the human resources, the benefit package. You're not just getting health insurance and other things. We're going to provide this education to you as well. So hopefully in the future, it's something that employers are doing and nonprofits are doing. And wouldn't it be nice if our schools did this? I started working on a teen edition, and I have about 3 years into it, and it's so close to being done, but I keep getting all these other opportunities. You know, when you're running your own business, I'm doing my website, it's a lot. But hopefully in the future it becomes the culture that instead of the predatory things we see with the payday loans, we can be helping. And I'm working with an organization now, he started in California to hopefully end payday loans as we know them. And he's working with employers to offer a loan program that it can then, if someone needs a small loan and they go up to $3,000, they can pay back, I think it's 24% interest, which may seem high, but it's not 300 or plus. And then it's automatically done out of payroll deductions. They have a bank backing them up, and they're just trying to get to large corporations to offer that as an employee benefit as well, to get employees from doing the payday loans. And a lot of employers think, oh, my people aren't doing that. But when they've gone in and they've done studies, 15 to 25% are taking those payday loans out, and they'll never be able to repay them back.
So I think this is a great idea. It's something that I've thought a lot about, because even people with money can be very stupid about the way they think about money. And that's half of it, is how you think about money. That's really, I think that you're really smart to do that. My question is, right now you're kind of walking the line between you're a solo practitioner and a startup, and I think you already know this, you're quickly getting overwhelmed, and at some point you have to kind of take yourself out of the equation. How do you plan on doing that? And you also answered another question I had was, where is, because you've talked about your revenue streams, you haven't talked about who you're going to be going after specifically, and I think you're talking about more about corporations, and I think that's very smart to make it like an employee benefit program. But could you talk about how you're planning on scaling this? Because at some point, you've got to stop doing a lot of the things you're doing, quite frankly.
Yes, and that's hard because I'm a control freak, so I have to figure out which parts I'm willing to let go, and so I'm working on that. So that was really 2 questions. What can I let go? One would be getting some more admin support, and even just, in a sense, warehouse support, because right now my garage is hosting these, and I'm the one going to the post office and shipping my materials to places. So IT support and admin support would be a good start. And I'm trying to make this as automated as I possibly can. When people click the button to get to my stuff, it just automatically flows.
Well, you've got to some extent, stop talking to me. I mean, you've got to let your product speak for itself,
Yes.
rather than you speak for it.
Right. And then the second part would be, who am I going after? I just applied with the federal government. I got all my government certifications, and if you're familiar with that process, your NACES codes and your page and on. And I'm WASB certified, which is Women-Owned Small Business. And I just applied for something 2 days ago that is for 10 chaplains to teach 570 people, and it would be a huge money booster to me. So I wrote that proposal, and hopefully it gets approved. So I'll have some more cash in the big chunks. Because right now I've been working with a lot of nonprofits and some businesses, and yeah, it's $1,000 here or $1,500 there, but it hasn't been the big, okay, I can survive on this money. So I'm working on it. Thank you.
Questions? Joe?
So in terms of your pitch to corporations, can you draw a correlation between your education and the improved HR response from the employer? So obviously HR is a pain, especially when you like turnover after a couple of weeks that temporary workers will go through. Like, so can you draw a correlation in a pitch to a corporation between your education and a lower turnover rate? Or a happier, more productive worker, better workplace?
Would that be then, are you saying, you know, what statistics do I have to show the results of when people are doing that? I have some anecdotal stories. I've done over 1,500 people have gone through the program, and I'm also working with an app developer right now, because what I'm hoping with an app is that every person going through the program can download their app, and it's going to not just focus on the finances, but the behaviors. Do you need this? Do you want this? Have you saved for it? Is it in your budget? And walk people through so that, and the app can then be gathering the statistics that I need to show corporations what it is. Some of the businesses I've worked with, we're looking at employee retention, but the numbers are so small, you know, 3, 6, 9 months, a year into, after they've gone through the program, are they still employed? And we just don't have the data yet.
Thanks for your presentation, first of all. It's well put together, clear, concise, so I appreciate that. Two hopefully quick questions. One, what's the sales cycle look like from a business-to-business perspective for some of your, like this in terms of like length or anything like that? What does that
The
look
business?
like for you? Business-to-business sales cycle.
So how often are they ordering?
Yeah, how often are they ordering, or is it a 2-year thing and then they call you up out of nowhere, or what does that look like for you right now?
Right now it's been very small because I've mostly worked with nonprofits. So I have Alabama, I have a group in Alabama that orders, a group in Colorado that orders. Yesterday at my conference I got a ton of contacts nationwide, sold a lot of my workbooks and kits, and if I had more I sold out, and so that was great.
Congratulations.
Everybody, and I'm like, I wish I packed my suitcase more, but
That's a good feeling.
yeah, and so again, it's been hit or miss, and I tell people this program takes work. It's not you just wave your magic wand and suddenly you have a Money in Me program. You know, you need to get the trainers trained, you need to get the participants there. Another strange thing that happens in the low-income world, I used to oversee a helpline in the nonprofit, and we had people calling us in need of food and furniture. And we would go through the interview with them, and we would say, would you like help with money management? And their response was, no, I really don't need it. And you want to say you're calling because you need help with food or furniture, so they don't see the value that they need help with money management. We found classes that were held at the end of a month are higher attended the classes at the beginning of the month, because people in government assistance get their money and they don't have a money problem at the beginning of the month, but at the end of the month they do. So we would have a higher attendance rate at the end. So the logistics to pull together a program that could be like a church outreach is difficult, whereas for an employee they just show up, and then when I go in the prisons it's a captive audience. So it's different. They just don't see the need as great as we see the need for them.
The second question was, have you spoken to anyone in the Medicare, Medicaid vertical as a potential way to improve their health outcomes at all?
No, but I like that idea.
Yes. We can talk
Brilliant.
about that more
Yeah,
later.
thank you.
Made the trip to St. Louis worth it with that one.
Yeah.
A little
No.
bad at selling out. You're just full of questions. No, go ahead.
So from your counseling standpoint of view, in your program, do you identify pain points that are acceptable for a practitioner to overcome when they're trying to manage their money? Like, you know, it's acceptable for them to work 60 hours a week to make ends meet, to get over their debt, but it would be unacceptable for them to engage in 120 hours worth of week work. Like being able to tell them what is acceptable pain for you to overcome and what is unacceptable, and use that to identify abusive relationships they may be in. Like if they're supporting like abusers of drugs, and
Sure.
they happen to be in an So have you identified pain points that are acceptable and
Yeah,
unacceptable?
so we don't identify pain points. We do look at behaviors. So we talk about habits. What's a good habit? What's a bad habit? We have them identify one habit they would like to work on and walk through the steps of changing a habit. We talk about boundaries around your money and asking people for money, or if people are asking you for money, how to say no. We do a lot of teaching how to say no. We do the cash envelope system, and I say, when the envelope is empty, what do you say? And we coach them how to say no. And then one of the experiential activities we have them do is actually write the word no on the inside of their envelope, so when they open their envelope and they're out of money, they're reminded what to say. So regarding behaviors and pain points, not specifically there, but we talk a lot about healthy relationships, establishing boundaries, self-discipline, saying no to yourself and others, and try to incorporate a lot of that into helping them change. It's a 6-hour curriculum, and so I've done it in 1-hour units, and so there's a PowerPoint to go with each session, and there's 6 sessions in the workbook. And what I've seen is that organizations can come in and do a 1-day workshop. I make sure that it's just about 10 or 15 minutes of talking through a topic. Then there's a worksheet. We have them do small group discussions, debriefed by a large group discussion. So there's interaction amongst the participants throughout the entire day. So with the 6 hours, someone can do, like I said, 1 6-hour workshop. They can do 2 3s, 3 2s, or 6 1s. So I've made it versatile for the organizations to do in a manner that works for them.
Other questions for Sarah? Okay, well, thank you so much for coming all this way and sharing all about Money and Me with that. And I'm sure as we have more coffee and hang out, we can connect more on a one-on-one basis. So thanks for coming this morning, and come back next week, bring a friend, and get up, drink more coffee, introduce yourself to somebody you don't already know. And is Luis around? I think Luis from the SBTDC is having his regular open door office hours. If that is of use to you, go see Luis. Thanks.